The first time Munjin saw the cloud market, his jaw fell open so wide he almost choked on his own spit. Floating above the trees, shimmering like a constellation come down to earth, it looked like a place where mortals weren't meant to go, but he had heard tales of its wonders. Every full moon, when the moon is fat and juicy like a ripe mango, the market appears open only one night each month. It is here that all the woodland spirits of the region gather. Some come with bird droppings that glisten like gems. Others bring flower petals so rare that merely smelling them makes your bones feel light and airy. And many come bearing songs, which they trade like silk merchants swapping bolts of brocade. Tonight was Mdian's first time at the market, but he knew it would become a monthly pilgrimage for him. What could be better than trading songs under the stars? There was only one problem. Mjin didn't know any songs. He was a poor farmer with calloused hands and dirt under his fingernails. All he had to trade was an old pipa, one that had belonged to his father, who had died 2 years ago. It wasn't much, but it was something. Min Jin had heard rumors about this market before his father died. When the moon is full, his father would say, stroking the pipa, "I'm going to take this to the cloud market and trade it for some rice. Rice that grows plump and sweet just from the water it's watered with." His father had never returned from the cloud market, so now the pipa was all Minjin had left of him. And it was an old instrument, not worth much. No one in Mdin's village wanted to buy it. So he figured maybe, just maybe, he could use it to buy some rice at the cloud market. He made the long journey through the dark jungle, arriving just as the moon was cresting over the tall trees. There it was, the cloud market, even more splendid up close. Its stalls overflowed with glowing pebbles and strange plants with intoxicating scents. The spirits flitting about were beautiful too. Some looked like monkeys or squirrels, while others were sleek and human-like, except their skin shone with an otherworldly light. Minjian had never seen such beautiful creatures, but they weren't interested in his pipa. "What's that thing?" One of them asked. "It hasn't been played in so long. The strings are practically fossilized," another added. "No one wants an unplayed pipa," said a third. They circled him, their voices dripping with amusement. "We'll give you 300 bolts of moonlight cloth for it," one of them said. "And we know how fond you humans are of that stuff." Minjin shook his head. He had no use for cloth. He needed rice. The spirits shrugged and disappeared into the throng, leaving Minjin feeling defeated. Then suddenly, a deep voice boomed across the market. "Who here has a song to share?" Everyone froze and turned toward the source of the voice. It was coming from a group of 7 spirits huddled around a large tree. Closer inspection revealed that each of them held a different musical instrument: a guzheng, a dizi, a surna, a hulisi, a pipa, a sheng, and finally a drum. They were the 7 sages of the cloud market, a legendary group whose songs wove the very fabric of the universe. Every month, they summoned a new spirit to play with them, in their inner circle, but only after they passed a test. The spirits placed their instruments on the ground in front of them, then sat in a tight circle, their faces obscured by swirling mists. One by one, they closed their eyes and swayed gently, as if listening intently to something only they could hear. Then they spoke. "Your song must resonate with the spirit of the forest," said the woman holding the gojang. "You must move us with the sound of your heartstrings." The man with the dizzy added, "Don't try to impress us with fancy fingerwork or complex time signatures. We want to hear your soul." Manjin swallowed hard. He felt like a fish out of water. How could he possibly play for these all-powerful spirits? Not only did he know almost nothing about music, he also had no idea what song to play. As he stood there racking his brain, one of the spirits spoke again. "If you have no song, then simply tell us a story. Any story will do. Just make sure it comes from the heart." This gave Munjin an idea. He remembered nights spent in his father's lap listening to stories of valiant heroes and mischievous goblins, stories that once began with the soft plucking of a pipa. "Oh, yes," the spirit of the forest said, "a story told with music is worth 1,000 songs." Eugene nodded eagerly and stepped forward. Then his heart sank. How could he possibly play an epic ballad? He had never tried. He was about to give up when he noticed the pipa lying forgotten on the ground. He picked it up, feeling its weight in his hands. Maybe he couldn't play a heroic epic, but what about his favorite story? The tale of the little mole who dreamed of flying? Or maybe the one about the butterfly that became a fairy? No, better yet, the legend of the warrior princess. As the thought struck him, his fingers twitched in anticipation. But the spirits shook their heads sadly. "We've heard those stories countless times before," one of them said. "They don't resonate with the spirit of the forest. They're just retellings of old tales." And Jean panicked. He was about to lose his only link to his father, and he hadn't even made it through the first round. Desperation gave him strength. He thought of every story he knew, but none of them felt right. Just when he thought he might faint from sheer terror, one tiny, almost forgotten memory surfaced. He had been so small back then that he couldn't remember the face of his mother, only the feel of her soft arms wrapped around him, and she had sung a lullaby while rocking him to sleep. A simple tune with lyrics that sounded like wind chimes tinkling in the breeze. It wasn't much, but it was the only song he could think of that was truly his. With trembling fingers, Minjan began to pluck the strings. The tune was slow and hushed, like the falling of dewdrops on banana leaves. The 7 sages closed their eyes and swayed gently, as if lost in thought. Maine finished the piece, then waited, his heart pounding in his chest. Had he done enough? Would the spirits let him keep his father's pipa? Suddenly, the spirit of the forest raised its head and boomed, "Play it again." Meijin blinked in surprise. Was that a request or a command? Either way, he had no choice but to comply. He began the melody again, slower this time, letting the notes hang in the air. At first, the forest was silent, but then something miraculous happened. The mist began to dance, rising and falling in time with the music. As Meijin continued playing, the wooden bridge beneath his feet hummed softly, and the sounds of the jungle echoed his melody. Birds swooped down from the trees, perching on the branches above him and chiming in harmony. By the end of the second verse, the entire forest was singing along. Menja had done it. He had resonated with the spirit of the woods. And as promised, the 7 sages welcomed him into their circle, sharing their songs and stories until the moon climbed halfway to the sky. When the time came for Min to leave, the spirits of the forest showered him with gifts, more than enough rice to last him for months. But the best gift of all was their friendship. From that day forward, Minjin visited the cloud market every full moon, bringing stories and songs that came from the deepest parts of his heart. The spirits of the forest became his family, and he never forgot the lessons they taught him. The most important being that sometimes the greatest art comes from the simplest moments, like the soft plucking of a pipa string or the tinkling of dewdrops on banana leaves.